Hey guys, in this video we're going to take a look at a brand new product from Mobvoi. This is the TicWatch GTH PRO, and it is the upgrade to their former TicWatch GTH. This is a fitness watch that is kind of like a Fitbit on some level, and at least it competes with Fitbit style watches. But this new Pro version of the watch is specifically aimed at monitoring heart health, and it has a variety of tech built into it to help you monitor various aspects of heart health. So it's going to be pretty interesting. Let's jump in and find out what this thing is all about. All right, let's do a quick unboxing and find out what's in the box. There's the guy right there. Let me see if the camera will focus on that instead of my face. It looks, form factor wise, looks very similar to an Apple Watch. Let me just peel the little thing off the front. I will say this does not feel like a toy. You know, I thought based on the fairly low price point at around $100 US, this would have a pretty plasticky, lightweight feel like the Fitbit Versus do, frankly. Just on first impressions, I'm pretty impressed on how this thing actually feels. Let's see what else is in the box. Got the quick guide with a QR code on the back. I'm assuming to download the app. I'm guessing this uses the same Mobvoi app that the TicWatch 3 uses. I don't know that for sure. I'm assuming there's been some updates to that. A USB cable with a proprietary, I'm guessing, magnetic connector that probably goes on either the back or the side of this watch. Yeah, it kind of snaps onto the back there. So yeah, I'm really interested in this. So, you know, as somebody who's, you know, in their mid-40s, what? All right, late 40, okay, 50s, in their mid-50s. So somebody who's in their mid-50s, I've become increasingly sort of heart health conscious over the last few years. I'm really excited about what this watch, or, you know, a device like this has the potential to provide in terms of you know, feedback and trending of various parameters that give me some sense of how I'm doing in the effort to improve my heart health. So this is not something I'm going to be able to test over the course of a couple of days and then report back. I'm going to actually have to spend a few weeks on this, at least 3 or 4 probably. So let me go do that, and I'll be back in about 2 seconds. And we're back. It's been about 3 weeks. Yeah, about 3 weeks since I did the unboxing part that you just watched. So let's go through some of the basic specs of the watch, and then I will show you some of the features kind of from an overhead view and give you my final thoughts about this TicWatch GTH Pro. So first of all, it's $99, and that's pretty good. It puts it kind of in direct competition with something like the Versa 2, which makes it a little less expensive than the Versa 2. Battery life. Something else that kind of surprised me. I got more than a week, almost 9 days out of this thing, and I was actually still at, like, I want to say 4 or 5% battery life. Now, it is aluminum construction, so it really does feel pretty premium, especially at this price point, I have to say. Now, one of the primary differentiators for this watch versus pretty much anything else on the market is that it really kind of tries to focus on heart health. Now, it does this by giving you what's called an ARTI score. Well, I guess like arterial scores. I think it's where they get the name ARTI. And that score is a composite score. There's an algorithm that underlies that combines, I think, 4 particular parameters. One of them is the ARTI age, where it kind of estimates your arterial age and stiffness based on a combination of other factors. And one of the other factors is ECAP, which is your exercise capacity. That's supposed to measure blood flow to the inner heart. I don't know how it does this, but you know, it does this through the finger sensing. But again, how it actually works, I couldn't tell you. HSX, which is your heart stress index measuring. Again, no idea really what that parameter is. There's also the True HR, which is your heart rate measurement from your fingertip rather than just from your wrist. And it combines that with other sensors as on the watch that really all these things combine to give you that ARTI score and your ARTI age. In addition to that, it also tracks obvious things like your step count. It has multiple exercise modes, sleep data, does automatic 24-hour tracking of your heart rate, your SpO2, your skin temperature, which is interesting because not a lot of watches do that still, especially in this price range. I don't think any other watch is doing that, and respiration rate. And you can set it up to give you reminders from time to time, like activity reminders, kind of like a lot of watches do. Hey, you've been sitting too long. This one kind of actually cracks me up because when I'm sitting at my desk for a long time, it'll buzz my wrist, and then I look at the watch and it says, "Congratulations, you've been sitting for too long," which I find kind of almost sarcastic. It does not have a GPS built in, which is really not surprising for a device in this price range. Instead, if you're doing an exercise that requires a route and that you want to track, it uses your phone GPS for that, which is kind of just like the Fitbit Versa 2, for example. So let's switch to an overhead view and take a look at both the app and the watch and get a feel for how they actually work. We're going to use the Mobvoi app. They also have a Smart Life app up here from Mobvoi, but that's not the one that applies to the watch, to the GTH Pro. So we're going to use the Mobvoi app. And when you open it, you come to kind of the dashboard here. So this is my dashboard from the GTH Pro. It's got my RD scores, activity levels, and you can click on this. It'll take you to the RD score, which we'll go ahead and do. And that pops you over to the main RD score dashboard. So this is the RD score. If you can go in and look at that, and you can look at the trend of that over time. Let me back that up a week so we have a little bit more data to work with. And you can see I'm kind of getting an improving trend here. Now, I think really with these RD scores, they're a little bit erratic in the sense that there's a fair amount of variation from day to day. And so I feel like the value of this score is not from any particular day, but looking at longer trends. So I think if you have several weeks worth of data or more, you're going to get trends that you can actually sort of start to get a sense of whether you're heading the wrong direction or the right direction. And I think that's the kind of the point of these kinds of health markers. If you have exercise recorded here in the activity zone, this is kind of this card on this dashboard. Now I can actually click on that card and it'll take me into the exercise app for today. And you can see that I can just kind of page through and look at some basics of that. Gives me the summary. Now, of course, I can back up and grab this little strip here and move it for different days and look at different days' data. And I had some days which were more active than others. Obviously, today was a much more successful active day than the last several. But that gives me some basic information that I can look at. If I scroll down here, you can see there's some other things. But I can look at the specific exercise that I did. Now, I called it mountaineering. It actually shows up on the watch as mountain climbing, as you'll see. But it shows the distance that I covered, the duration, my average pace, average heart rate. If I click on that card, I can see the heart rate throughout the course of the hike. I wasn't actually mountaineering, I was just hiking. And you kind of see the summary of which zones I was in, fat burning versus cardio training. It's typical kinds of things you would see in a Fitbit activity summary as well. So if I go back out here, you can see I've got sleep data from last night. Gives me a breakdown of my awake, REM sleep, light sleep, and deep sleep. You kind of get a average heart rate across the sleep. So down as low as about 50 and as high as 87. Also gives me my SpO2, so my blood oxygen level. So that's pretty interesting that I can get access to that data as well in line with my sleep card. It also tracks my skin temperature, which again is a very cool feature in a watch that only costs $100. So I mean, that's the basics of what's in the app. A couple more things. If I click over here on device, you can see I've got my TicWatch E3 on the top and the GTH Pro down here. It shows me my battery life. That again is something that continues to really kind of astonish me, that I can get over a week of battery life on this thing. That's even better than a Fitbit Versa. So very surprising that it's got such good battery life, but it does. There's a few things in here. Smart mode allows me to do things like turn on, tilt to wake. The battery life being over a week was with all of these sensors turned on for automatic detection. Smart alarm is where you can actually set alarms weekdays, whatever the times are, and activate them. You can add multiple alarms down here with the plus. Some other things here under smart reminder, you can turn on notifications for calls and your text messages, and there's other notifications that you can get. here. So I've got a few of these turned on. And the notifications are not, two-way notifications. They're basic one-way notifications typically. So I can't respond to text notifications. I can only see that they happened. I can't answer calls, but I can see that I have a call coming. Just some things to be aware of. Now, probably the other big thing of note here is the watch face center. So when you click on that, this is where you can access a bunch of different watch faces. So you can see a lot of them, they're a variety of styles here. I think they give you a pretty long list of watch faces here, as you can see. All right, let's take a look at the watch itself. There is the one button on the side, on the right-hand side. And when you push it, it activates the watch. And you can swipe left and right on this. It's just like a loop. So you kind of go through the watch face, whatever the widgets are that are loaded here. So there's a variety of things that you can see here. You can change the watch faces from here by, just like you can on like Android watches, by pressing and holding. And you can toggle through a small handful. Now most of these watch faces that you can change on the watch are already loaded in the watch. This one here that I have right here is one that I loaded from the phone or from the app. So you can see the other ones are just ones that are always there that you can choose from. They're not particularly interesting ones, I don't think. So I'm not sure. I kind of wish they would give you the option to change and have more than just one sort of either custom or downloaded one, because really the only one that's sort of stock on the watch that I like is this one here. But I also like this one because it gives me a battery life indicator there, as you can see, 72%. So anyway, that's how you change watch faces. If I swipe down, I can get to the Do Not Disturb function, so you can turn that on and off. I can go into battery save mode, or power save mode, but it doesn't show me the battery status from there. You have to add that to the watch face or check it in the app. It's got a flashlight function as well. It's not particularly bright, but we'll get the job done in the dark. Under brightness, I usually keep this all the way up at 5. So 5 is the highest brightness level up here. You can dial it down. I think by default it's maybe a 2 or 3. I actually like it at 5, and even though I have it at 5, I still got pretty insanely long battery life. And there's settings here where you can also adjust brightness from here. You can restore factory settings and power the watch off from here. Also, you can get information about your firmware. So that's about all there is from that screen. Now, if you press the side button again, you get to the main apps menu. So here we have the Arty app. Actually, if I start at the top, the tick exercise, right? So this is where you have to go in and manually initiate your exercises. Outdoor run, cycling, jump rope, swimming, walking, rowing, freestyle, whatever that is. I think I use just freestyle whenever I'm using the elliptical because there's no elliptical on here. I like to see them use things that are more common like elliptical or treadmill or something like that instead of gymnastics. I mean, I don't know how many people are using gymnastics with this thing. So if I go in to do an indoor run, I have to start the exercise and then stop it, and it'll record everything during that particular session. If I go back out here, tick health is where I can go in and take my pulse, my breath rate. I can do a quick sample of my tick oxygen. I've got the watch set up to do that stuff automatically, so I generally don't have to get in here to mess with these apps because I'm letting the watch kind of do its thing. I can go in and take my Arty readings. So this is how you do that. You have to cover the sensor with your finger, and after 3 seconds, it starts a 10-second reading cycle. Sleep tracking, this is where you can set a timer on the watch, and you can choose from one of these preset timers, or you can set a custom timer as well. That's always an option. Go back out here, and there's the weather app. Now, for some reason, I don't know why, but this weather app always shows me about 5 degrees Fahrenheit different than what my phone weather app does. So I'm not sure if different service is providing this. Not a huge deal. Music control. So whether I'm playing anything on my phone through whether it's Spotify or you could even be YouTube, watching YouTube videos, using music control allows me to stop, start, go forward, go backwards on the music. So it gives me remote control over basically whatever media is playing on my phone. So that's kind of cool. I can't store music directly on this watch, but I can remote control my phone. So that's about all there is to the watch itself. That's what it looks like, and that's kind of how it functions. So limitations. What are the limitations of this watch? Well, as you saw, watch faces are okay. I don't think they're a particularly strong suit for this particular device. I personally would like to see more things like the ability to add on the customizing, to add other like widgets like weather or battery life in particular. Although, I guess it's understandable why more of these watch faces don't show the battery life, because it's not like a Galaxy Watch or an Apple Watch where you only get, a day and a half or maybe two and a half days of battery life. You get over a week out of this thing easily. And so it's not as much of a concern. So I suppose I can understand why. I guess I'm just thinking of it in terms of my experience with the Galaxy Watch, where I really want to know my battery life at a glance. So maybe it's not that big of a deal. Now, as far as the apps go, you saw a nice, fairly robust list of apps, timers, alarms, some fitness apps, weather, things like that. You can't add to that. These are static apps. They kind of have the look and feel of kind of the apps that you would expect to see on an Android-based watch. Since this is in the $100 range, it's really not. So you kind of are stuck with the apps that they give you, and they're okay. But there is no real app ecosystem here that you can tap into to load additional apps from third parties if you wanted to. But again, at this price point, maybe that's not something that you really need. Now, alarms and timers are something that I found to be a little bit lacking. I mean, obviously you have alarms and timers, but this watch doesn't appear to have any sound capability, so there's no audible alarm or notification that you get when an alarm is triggered or when a timer times out. Instead, what you get is a vibration on the wrist, and I found that vibration to be particularly light, and I rely on that for those silent alarms to wake me up in the morning. My my Galaxy Watch, for example, gives me a pretty strong buzz, and then if I don't, for some reason, which is unusual for me, since I'm such a light sleeper, if I don't wake up from that vibration on my wrist, it'll repeat the vibration a couple minutes later, like an automatic snooze. This watch doesn't do that. The vibrations are very low intensity, so they're easy to miss, even for a light sleeper, so be aware of that. You may not want to rely on it for wake-up alarms. It'd be nice to have some additional functionality, and maybe, Mobvoi will add these kinds of things, because they do appear to be rolling out updates on this on a semi-regular basis. So they might do that in the future, but I don't really know for sure. Notifications. Notifications are very limited on this watch. You get actually a pretty long list of notifications, as you saw in the overhead shots, but you can't add to that. It's just whatever apps that Mobvoi has exposed notifications for. Now, you're going to get all the basics like your messaging, email, and a variety of other apps like Instagram or Facebook. But it's not going to be every app on your phone that has the capability of providing notifications, which is what you get with a full-blown Android Watch experience. That said, it's sufficient if you don't want to send replies to text, for example, which I don't often. I mean, I occasionally do that from my Galaxy Watch, but I don't do it all that often. So depending on your particular use case, it may not be a big deal that the notifications are fairly basic on this watch. It would be nice if it had the ability to detect an exercise mode and automatically initiate and stop it so you didn't have to think about it. But again, at that $100 price point, I'm not sure that it's fair to expect that level of functionality. Now, what are some reasons you might want to consider this watch? Obviously, I keep mentioning price because $99 and a watch with this level of functionality is pretty shocking, and build quality, I will also say. It's very surprising. It also, by the way, it does use standard, whatever the standard bands is. I forget what the millimeter size is, but whatever the bands the TicWatch E3 uses or the Galaxy Watch 4 uses, this uses the same watch band, so you can replace the watch bands. Another reason, battery life is ridiculously good, actually, for a watch with a color display and a touch screen and all of the sensing technology that this thing has. I cannot believe that you get over a week of battery life out of this thing. So that by itself is, I think, a pretty huge selling point. The watch does cover most of the basics, despite its software limitations, and it does a reasonably good job at tracking things like sleep and heart rate, and skin temperature, again, which I think is a pretty interesting and kind of unique feature, especially in a watch at this price level. So what's my bottom line on this? Is this going to replace my Galaxy Watch for me? Absolutely not. But it's in a whole different category. So if you already have a device like a Galaxy Watch or an Apple Watch, this is probably not the watch for you. But if you're looking for a quasi-smart watch with some very good health tracking features on it at a very good budget price range with excellent battery life, this is definitely worth a look. So hopefully you found some of this information useful. If you did, please consider giving us a thumbs up. And that's really all I've got for you. Hope to see you in the next one. Until then, have fun out there.